Soy el faro. Bienvenido a mi labyrinth. Welcome. This is the Three Kings Pan's Labyrinth model, El Fano. It is a fantastically, beautifully detailed model kit. Actually, it's heartbreakingly beautiful. It is rather unfortunate that Three Kings no longer produce this kit. In fact, Three Kings are no longer in existence, which is a really tragic thing for model makers in terms of having this particular kit. I suppose that's where your 3D printers come in, and 3D specialists, but I prefer this kit. It's a 1/12 scale, so he's pretty big. He also comes with part of the Labyrinth, a few accessories in terms of his alchemy and magic. He also comes with a bag and the fairy case and a fairy. I'm building this because, well, it's been a long time overdue. I've had this kit now for a number of years, probably about 7 or 8 years now. But since I've joined HLI, Hobby Link International, they have a Halloween group build, and this is part of that build. It gives me a great incentive to actually get on with building him. There are very few imperfections in this kit. Very few. If I focus on his face, a bit of his beard there has come off during the release from the mould, which is unfortunate, but that's something that can be easily sculpted in with milliput, so it isn't a massive issue. His chest needs some additional detailing, so I can do that. And he seems to be missing 1 or 2 items down below, which can be also added with milliput, so we'll get round to that. So what we're going to do initially is see if we can get his horns to fit better by either filing them or drilling the recesses in his skull a little bit deeper, taking the little nub off his left sideburns and then restoring that which was broken off. There's very few, if any, air holes, pockets, imperfections, and considering the complexity of this model kit, there's remarkably very little flash. So altogether this is supremely impressive, and it's a supreme effort by the sculptor and producer of this kit, and I cannot praise them or thank them enough for actually manufacturing this kit. When I first saw it on YouTube presented years ago by another modeler, I just knew I had to have this kit. There was just no way I was not going to have it. It's one of the most intriguing, most beautiful designs, and the film is absolutely magnificent, and Del Toro is a wonderfully imaginative, creative and exceptional, truly exceptional director. brilliant storyteller. If you've not seen the film Pan's Labyrinth, I do recommend that you see it, especially this Halloween. But right, we're going to crack on, and we'll be back in a moment. Right then, here is the tool that I propose to use on these horns. If I can just try and focus a wee bit. As you can see right on the base of that there's a little bit of what looks like sprue, and it's preventing the horn from being deeply recessed into El Fauno's skull, and that's on both horns. See if we get the other one here. It's not so bad on that one, but both will need filing. Now this might look really excessive, but it will actually do the job and shorten the job, because I really got to get this model done as soon as, so it's going to be a long old haul, but hopefully an enjoyable one. And we will get this model kit complete, so it won't be like the P word, which is still languishing in dry dock, but that's another situation which we have to resolve, and I need a good kick up the backside in terms of getting that particular project done. So my apologies there, but I haven't forgotten about it, and yeah, we will get there, but we're not talking about the P word at the moment. So yes, in terms of El Fauno here, we are full steam ahead. Right, well, we're back in a bit, and it's only been 5 minutes. 5 minutes, and I have managed to file that bit of sprue off and contour the base of the horns, and I've done that on both horns, and it's a better fit already. It is a remarkable fit already. God, I'm just so impressed. There is some mould seams, but they're very fine, so I'm going to take those off with a needle file in just a moment. See if I can just attach. I don't think I'm going to be able to attach these horns single-handedly, so I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'll be right back. Horns, as intended, fit beautifully. There's just very small seams to fill, and that can be tackled with milliput. So I was considering pinning those horns with brass, but using araldite 2-part epoxy and a bit of super glue to hold them in place while that epoxy cures, I really don't think I will need to use a metal pin. I really believe that due to the quality of the resin and the 2-part epoxy, it will blend, it will just set beautifully. I really don't think there'll be an issue. I don't know what sort of resin this is, but it's beautiful to work with. It's like pumice. It's strong, but filing it is just it's just beautiful. That's all I can say. I'm just speechless. So without further delay, I'm going to tidy up his face a wee bit. I might add the details on his chest and lower regions, and then we'll get those horns glued in place. Be back in a mo. There's been minimal cleanup. There's been some bits of the actual mould in the detail of the model. I mean, that's to be expected, a model of such intricacy. So that's been picked out. As I was saying earlier on, there's very minimal seam lines. Those have been picked out with a needle file. Just nothing to report on that scale, in that it was significant. There is no significant seam lines in this model. It's incredible. On the head, yeah, it didn't take that long, just a few minutes to pick out those seam lines. Done. On the sides, hardly any seam lines. Again, done. There was a bit of detail which was broken, which I just lacquered with super glue, so that will just absorb into the resin and harden, and that'll be fixed in place, so that won't be an issue. This little nub there, which I was going to cut off on his beard or sideburn, I've decided to actually sculpt and taper off. So that's a job that's been done as well, so no issues. So all I have to do now is just sculpt the other side of his face, as I was saying earlier on, and I'll be a job done. On his chest, as you can see in the reference here, he has some spirals. I think those are temporal spirals, so the actual model doesn't have this detail. Now, I've looked at a professional modeler, Jim Capone. He's sculpted his detail on with what seems to be putty, but I'm actually going to sculpt into the actual model. It's something I'm a little bit nervous about, because I just don't want to destroy something so beautiful, but it is an essential part of this model's detail, and he hasn't got it. So what I've done is just roughed it in with pencil, and then I'm going to just very tentatively basically etch into the model, etch the detail in, but very carefully. I'm trying to follow the contours of the actual model and the detail of the actual model, so it blends in. I'm not disrupting the surface too much. So yeah, it's important that I keep the overall aesthetic and the integrity of the model. I really don't want to ruin it with anything that I need to do. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, this is virtually a perfect kit, and I don't want to wreck it, basically. So the horns have been done, as I was saying earlier on. The seam lines are cleaned up on there. No major issues. So we're steaming ahead. So we're going to etch this detail, see where we end up. Just a quick note. So we'll see you soon. And it's an important one. His pelvis had pouring stubs on either side. Now those pouring stubs had to be shaved back so that his hips, his legs, could be attached properly without there being a massive gap. So I thought, if I shaved those back prior to attaching the horns, then I wouldn't I wouldn't risk damaging or knocking the horns while trying to shave those back later. So as opposed to doing that, I thought just crack on with that now. So there won't be complications later on. So yeah, be right back. Okay, the horns have been attached. I have wet sculpted the resin to contour around the base of the horns. I'm using the resin as a natural filler, so this will reduce my need to apply milliput. So the wet epoxy resin will better suit the finish in terms of contouring, and it's less mess to tidy up and finesse. So right now he's looking really good. I'm really impressed, I'm really happy. So next we will be on to the legs, but there's not much tidying up to do. There's not many issues with the legs. There might be a few air pockets to fill in, but that will be done once Faun's all glued together. So I can just use the epoxy putty in one hit, save mixing up separate batches and filling in separate pieces. So rather than do that, I'll be able to just tackle the job in one lot. But those horns have settled in nicely. I'm really pleased. This is by far rather one of the best models I've had. He's just simply gorgeous. He's wonderful. So anyway, the legs will be next. Well, it's Tuesday morning, so good morning. It's just came up to 11:45. I've been working on Alfano now since yesterday, which was Monday, until 2 AM this morning. Yesterday we've made good progress. We've installed Alfano's horns. We did the usual, keying the surfaces, the horn joints and the recesses in the skull, so they've mated perfectly, so there isn't an issue there. Those are strong, they're firm, they're not going to come out. Now, having said that, this was a near perfect model yesterday and that there are little to no imperfections, I found one glaring imperfection, and that is a gaping hole in Alfano's arm. Now, having had the kit 7-8 years, I really didn't notice this, which is ironic. I mean, okay, the model spent most of its life here with me in its box, so whenever I've taken him out to have a look, I've only really looked at the torso and the face and the horns. So this is my first proper look, so to speak, in terms of really analysing this model, really taking him in. So yesterday I said that I wasn't going to pin the legs and the arms into place using brass rod because I really didn't think I needed to based on how well the horns had been inserted, but having a go this morning at 2 a.m. and bashing my head against the wall, I've come to the conclusion that I will have to pin them into position due to their unique way that they are attached. So that'll be with the usual resin and epoxy, and see how we go with that today. The plinth and the monolith, or the obelisk, I'm going to fix today or put together today. I don't think there's going to be many issues with that, but famous last words, so we'll keep an open mind on that and see how we go. Oh, excuse me, I've got a sniffly nose. So what I'm going to do now is drill out the existing recesses and insert the pins. So we'll see we'll see how that goes and see where we'll end up by the end of the day. One thing I've realised is that perhaps, when you're tired and you're reaching the end of the day and you're building, the best thing to do is actually stop. Otherwise you're just going to founder, and I foundered at 2 a.m. this morning. So I think, yes, as soon as I begin to flag, I'm going to quit. But I'm hoping that we're going to have a good innings today. So we'll catch up in a minute and see where we are. Okay, so we're on. Be right back. As you can see here, I've inserted the brass pins. I've just used basic super glue to put those into position. What I will do in a few moments, well, I say a few moments, a little while, I'll just pack that in with some milliput to reinforce it before attaching it to the sternum or the pelvic area of El Fano. I've also drilled out the back area there. This is where his tail is inserted. So we're making good progress actually. I've also drilled out his shoulder sockets. Those actually surprisingly fit into place without being pinned. I will just give you a quick demonstration. Just bear with me a moment.